Greetings ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy here. Welcome back to the channel and to my ongoing review of World of Warcraft's Battle for Azeroth expansion. Now that I am at the level cap and have begun grinding for rep and mythic gear, I've started dabbling in all manner of content on offer, so today I'll be sharing my thoughts on Island Expeditions, a new feature that came with the expansion. This isn't a guide or anything like that, so while veterans, don't get too excited. For the benefit of new or non-World of Warcraft players, what are Island Expeditions? They're an instance 3 versus 3 battle against the enemy faction which takes place on an uncharted island, in a race to plunder more Azerite than the enemy can. For players just starting the expansion and wondering how do you unlock them, you'll need to have hit 116 and have progressed your faction's war campaign up to the point where you've established 2 footholds on the other faction's continent. Once done, you'll receive an introductory questline and you're good to go. So I've done about 15 or more of these now on normal and heroic difficulty, and they go even higher to mythics, and there's a PvP option as well to take on rail players on the other end. And that's an important distinction because outside of the PvP mode, your team will be competing against AI or a bot team, and we'll talk about them more later. Jumping into one is pretty easy. Simply head to Borealis if you're Alliance and look for Flynn at the docks. He'll have a scouting table in front of him, which is where you'll queue for your island expedition. Now, how do you win one of these things and bring back that sweet Azerite? Every week, the queue will pop you and your party into one of 3 islands randomly from a pool of 7 at the moment, each offering you achievements, different scenery, landscapes, trash monsters, rare elite bosses, loot chests, and Azerite to plunder. Once it begins, it's now a race to collect as much Azerite as you can to hit the objective before the enemy team does. The amount needed to hit that objective and win the expedition depends on your difficulty. 6,000 for normal, 9,000 for heroic, for example. And during the expedition, you fill in that bar by killing any creatures, opening up chests, mining Azerite nodes, completing bonus objectives that you come across, and even wiping out the enemy party, who are worth quite a bit of Azerite the longer they've been alive. Win or lose, you'll bring back your plunder to fill in the weekly progress bar at the scouting table that needs to hit 40,000 Azerite to complete a weekly quest, which rewards you with some 2,000 artifact power and island expedition tokens, which you can spend for buffs and boons on your next run. That is Island Expeditions in a nutshell, folks. And it takes around 10 minutes or more to run, so they're relatively pretty quick. So here's what I think of Island Expeditions. Doing the first few on the normal difficulty to get the basics was very refreshing for me, as Island Expedition does seem like a cool idea for content. It feels like a mashup of a PvP battleground, a scenario, and a dungeon, and on higher difficulties things get really hectic as many variables come into play to be effective. For instance, queuing as a pug will put you in groups where a majority of everyone's spec will probably be DPS. This can pose a problem if the group is all about chain pulling trash mobs and rare elites to bump up the Azerite count. These rares can hurt if you're not geared. Dying simply puts you back on the ship with a res timer, so if the group starts wiping and trickling back in one by one, that's precious time wasted. Which brings us to the next point, strategy. Because of how Island Expeditions are designed, there's more than one viable way to win, and I feel like a well-organized group with communications will utilize all ways for a smooth run, especially for heroics and higher. This includes doing bonus objectives and events when they pop up, using shrines for good combat buffs, only pulling the rare elite on the way to an Azerite scouting report, and more. There's a ton of strategy out there that you can use for your runs. When in doubt, I just followed the guy who looks like they knew what they were doing. But as a new player, the objective remains the same. Do as much as you can to get that Azerite, follow the group, don't try and solo everything, and of course, try not to die. Let's talk about the AI bots now, and they are, to me at least, pretty impressive. The enemy AI are programmed to imitate the actions and thought process of a real player. While it's not perfect at all and not even great, they do offer quite a challenge. Their group composition could be anything at random, from 2 mages and a rogue and so on. And what I like about them is that they're aggressive when they need to be if your team is in the lead, often hunting your party out on the island for a fight. These AI could jump you at opportune moments too, like when you pull more mobs than you can handle, that's when they show up to finish you off and that rare elite you are tackling as well. In a direct fight, I'd safely say your group consisting of real players will always win against the AI, if you've had any sort of PvP experience and even not. Just do things you regularly do in dungeons, CC the casters, etc., because these AI bots will do the same to you, often going for what the AI perceives as the squishiest target. They also jump around a lot in combat to mimic real players, which I find pretty hilarious. And overall, I'd say these AI enemy teams work very well for island expeditions. On normal, they're no threat really. Heroic is where they're a fun challenge. Mythic, on the other hand, is a different story. I'm hearing that it's damn near impossible, and players must cheese the expedition by camping the team at their ship, among other unorthodox strategies. Doable if you're geared and organized, otherwise get there first. On the PvP mode, where it's all players against each other, it will probably feel more like a mini battleground with objectives, I reckon, but whatever floats your boat. The varying difficulties only offers you an incremental amount of artifact power per win, so do what you feel is most fun for you. Island expeditions as a whole for me have been good amounts of fun in small doses. The small group composition, in addition to the random wacky nature of the side objectives, the different monsters on every island, how fast the queue pops, and the mixed mash of strategies in every run means that the replay value is high, especially if Blizzard continues to add more islands in future patches. On Heroics at least, I enjoy that adrenaline rush of competing with some decent AI bots, and the overall vibe truly feels like Blizzard's pumping in MOBA, FPS, and hell, even Battle Royale genre style systems to keep things fresh, and I do like that. Doing just the required amount to fill my weekly Azerite cap for the quest is a good dose for me, and I won't run them anymore once the weekly cap is filled, and here's why. The downside for me, and you may disagree, which is fine, is that island expeditions do not feel rewarding at all to run from a loot standpoint. Looking at Wowhead, you see all the rewards listed there, from decent gear to pets, but the reality is I have not seen one drop for me or my group in over 15 runs since launch. These loot can be either in rare chests on the islands, or are rewarded when you reach the win screen, or even when turning in the weekly quest. Why the hell are they so rare? Or is it just my bad luck and I should be running them on mythic difficulty for the loot? I don't know. But right now, I just think they're worth doing for the weekly, and that's it. I'd rather do the other content with viable ways to earn tangible rewards for character progression, from dungeons to PvP and hell, even world quests. The other downside, and I'm being picky here, is that you cannot queue for island expeditions if you're anywhere else in the world. You have to queue for them in Borealis in front of Flynn at that damn scouting table, which is annoying as hell. The good news is, if you're gonna run them with some guildies or some friends, only the group leader needs to be there to start the queue. But if you're gonna be jumping in solo, you have to be there in front of that scouting table to start a queue. While this is just a minor hindrance, it's a real good thing that the queues are really fast. So in closing, I like island expeditions. I'll continue to run them weekly for my artifact power, but I'd like to see better incentives for doing them more than the necessary. That's just me, so for those of you that have been running them, feel free to share your thoughts about island expeditions in the comments section below. How's your experience been with them? And are you getting any good loot? Let me know. Hit the like button for more on World of Warcraft's Battle for Azeroth expansion, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more MMO content. Once again, I'm GRM Adrian, and I thank you for watching. Hey folks, welcome to the end screen. Thank you very much for watching that video. If you want to watch more, you can click on the cards at the bottom here, and feel free to subscribe to the channel with the button down there, which will give you notifications on all my latest uploads. Later, Gator.